I just don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Oh, didn't see you there. I'm so sorry. Hey, homie. Welcome to another video, and in this video I am finishing my African American Joy cardigan, which I will explain a little bit more about later. So, grab your favorite snack or your favorite beverage and crochet with me. Let's do it. Before we get into it, I was actually getting my crochet supplies, and this is a bag of all my crochet hooks, and I was like, this is some high quality ASMR. So wait, just listen for a moment. I do feel slightly ridiculous, but I hope the camera is picking up the sound because it's beautiful, the most beautiful sound I've heard in a while. I've been working on this cardigan on and off for a while now, and it's been about 6 months, like on and off. And so I started with around 50 different patches for the cardigan, and now it looks like vaguely cardigan-like. I've sewed different panels together, as you can see, and so I'm really excited. It's almost towards completion. And so right now I have my 2 front panels, and then this is my back panel. And what I will first do is sew the back panel, sew the front panel, I'm getting confused, sew the front panels to the back panel. Let me tell you a bit about the business that I actually started, which was back in like November, December of 2021. So I'd say like a little bit over 6 months at this point. And I started it by creating an Instagram page called Drippy Homies, which, you can go and follow. At this point, I'm considering a name change, but that's a whole other conversation. And so on that Instagram page, I posted a wide variety of things, I would say. I had posts with just my own personal projects, and I had posts with also projects that I would do for my clients. And so it was like a bunch of different things. I wasn't really consistent with the page. I'd post just basically whenever I had content. A lot of my projects are like long-term, on and off, just because I am a full-time student. And so I didn't always have things to post or to share about. And when I started my business, the way I set it up was I just offered to make anything people wanted for them, of course, like as long as it wasn't offensive or whatever the case is. And so I told people, come to me with ideas, or I can help you generate ideas. And then from there, I will like help you design, or if you have like photo inspiration, then I will help you like bring it to life. And so to me, while that sounded, like exciting and cool, it was also really, really, really vague. And I think the frustrating thing about this is you think when you open a store that it's just gonna be like sales flowing in immediately. And that was not the case for me. And so I have been trying to reflect and figure out why, so that, you don't make the same mistake that I did. And that's what this video is about. Just me going through my reflections about having this business for 6 months, where I think it might be headed, and how I'm feeling. Let's get into it. What I'm considering part 2 of this video is the first mistake that I think I made while starting my business. And that's the fact that I was selling crochet, which, doesn't sound wrong when you first think about it. Like, of course, I'm a crochet artist. I'm gonna be selling crochet goods. Like, you'd think that it makes sense. But I was listening to a podcast called the Dear Crochetpreneur podcast with Pam Grice, and I will link that down below. But basically, the episode that I listened to talked about how selling crochet is not a good idea, because crochet, like quote unquote crochet, is like a vague wear to be selling, as opposed to like, oh, I sell like tank tops, or oh, I sell pants. Those things are more specific. And oftentimes customers or buyers aren't actually looking for crochet goods. They're looking for, a baby shower gift, or they're looking for like a summer dress. But more often than not, they're not just directly looking for things that are explicitly crocheted or explicitly handmade. And so how does this relate to my business? Well, I realized that because I offered to make people basically anything they wanted, I was essentially just selling crochet, or like selling my skill and ability to turn their ideas into, actual clothes via the skill of crocheting. And that was really vague. So of course, people aren't going to be encouraged to buy from me because they don't actually know what I'm selling. And therein lies the crux of the issue. And to be honest, I don't actually know what I was selling. I think it got to a point where I literally did not know. And it also just was not efficient to frame my business that way for a variety of reasons, which was I never could really predict what people wanted from me. People would sometimes come up to me like, hey, do you make two-piece bikinis? Or like, hey, can you make me some amigurumi? And I'd be like, sure, yeah. Do you have inspiration? And then it would just be like this back and forth, instead of people being able to go to my Instagram page and be like, oh yeah, she makes clothes. Or, oh yeah, she makes, I don't know, dresses, or whatever the case was. I think another thing that fed into me selling crochet was the fact that I was nervous to niche down and be more specific about, oh, this is summer clothing, or oh, this is, I just make dresses, because there were a lot of things that I was actually making for the first time. Back around November, December, I was just, I think, really starting to realize just how much there was to know about crochet that I didn't know yet. And so I had a lot of pictures on my page of things that I was making, but I was literally making them for the first time. I was making a patchwork cardigan for the first time. I was making a dress for the first time. I was making a bralette for the first time. And so I didn't always feel fully confident immediately going into putting those things as different products that I could make, because I was, making them for the first time. And so it's not like I had been able to have the practice with those pieces to know, oh, this is how long it'll take me, this is how much yarn I'll need, anything like that. It did feel like I was trying to learn and sell at the same time, which I don't think is ever what you want from someone you're buying things from. You wouldn't want to go to a doctor's office and they're like, hey, so I'm learning about heart surgeries today. Would you like to schedule yours for tomorrow? That just doesn't really work. But I felt like I wanted to and needed to sell things to people, because I did want to monetize this hobby. And it was a hobby that I'd been doing for a while and that I really enjoyed. And so, I don't know, yeah, all those things led into me selling crochet, which is basically translated into me selling nothing, which is why people were not encouraged to buy from me. Okay, so now let's move on to part 3. And this second mistake that I had was not realizing that crocheting as a business is different than crocheting as a hobby. And what I mean by this is, when you have a business, You have to be consistent with it. And you know, you have to put in the hours, you have to get your business off the ground and just spend time on it. Whereas when I was crocheting as a hobby, it was just like, you know, whenever I had time or whenever I was interested, I would just pick up my yarn and my crochet hook. And that timing was a lot more flexible and a lot more up to me. And when I started my business, suddenly I was competing with all of these like full-time crochet artists and all these people who felt significantly more skilled than me. And that was, I guess you could say, scary, because I never had to do that before. Crocheting previously was just, you know, for fun, whenever I had the time, really low stakes. But suddenly it felt like I was in a sea of other crochet options, and my skills weren't even particularly special or particularly sought after. And so upon reflection, I realized that I, during those months, was still treating crochet like a hobby, even though I said and, you know, created an Instagram page around it being a business. In my mind, part of the logic was, oh, I can't possibly compete with all of these, you know, full-time artists or all these like other stunning, like equally if not more stunning creators on Instagram and stuff. So I won't. Like, I just did not even attempt. And I don't think that that was a good inclination in any way. It just is, I think, a large part of my personality. It's like the one non-Virgo thing about me, which is really funny. Like, I'm just not competitive unless I have a clear advantage, which sounds terrible because it is, but that's just how my brain operates. Like, if I don't see how I clearly have strengths in an area, or if my quote unquote talent isn't validated, then I think I get really discouraged. And I don't think that was the right thing to do. I, in many ways, wish that I had realized sooner that that was what I was doing, like treating it as a hobby, so that I could create more stable times in my routine to actually work on crocheting. I think also the thing about crocheting as a business versus as a hobby is suddenly the time I spend on my business doesn't just encapsulate the act of crocheting, you know, like sitting down with yarn and like working away at a project. Suddenly it includes, you know, like working on my Instagram page and making sure that I have photos ready to post. And, you know, do I start a Pinterest so that I can market to people? And there's Shopify. Do I learn about that? And YouTube and TikTok. And like, I think there's lots of like conversation out there about how being a small business owner also means being your own marketing, your own, you know, HR, like all of the different roles and hats that can be in a business. And so I became aware of all those different aspects, but the time I spent working on crochet, or, you know, the time I spent crocheting didn't rise to meet all those additional responsibilities. Okay, so right now I have the first panel attached, and I am almost done with the second panel. Update. I took the liberty to finish sewing the front panels to the back panel, so let me just show you that real quick. And I will also link below the pattern that I'm like also vaguely following, just in case it might interest you. But this is what the front is looking like, and then this is the back. And just like an aside, my measurements we're at a really awkward place for this pattern because this pattern calls for like the back to be 5, what are these called? 5 patches across, but mine is only 4 because if I did it 5 across, then it would just be a lot more like baggy or loose than I think I want it to be. And so that's why there's no middle. And I'm hoping in theory it still looks fine on me. The one other time that I followed this pattern before, I did do it with 5 patches across. So we're gonna see how this goes. But yes, this is the progress. I am now gonna open, this is kind of hard to explain, but I'm gonna open the side of these panels and then attach the sleeves to the side, and then I'm gonna seam everything, and then I'm gonna add the ribbing. This is a lot, and I thought I could get this all done while talking, which is clearly not the case because I spent like a solid 5 minutes working on seaming the front and back panels together. I will most likely do a time lapse after talking about my last point, just so that y'all can really see the process of me finishing this cardigan. For attaching the sleeves, here is the first sleeve that I will start attaching. I will be using my green yarn instead of using white yarn. Actually, psych, I lied. I will be using white yarn just because like I want to try and match with as much of the yarn that's already here as possible to help the seams blend in. And I will get my stitch marker to help with finding the middle. Let me know if you guys want like the link for the video explaining how I'm attaching these sleeves, because I watched a YouTuber named Mr. Bobbin, who I will also link down below. Just from listening to her is how I picked up this technique. I'm sure there's plenty out there. Oof, okay. There we go. Got my, lovely stitch markers. In the process of doing that, I lost them. Okay, we back in business. Okay, let's get into the final lesson that I learned throughout this 6-month period, and hopefully this is providing you value. If so, I'd really appreciate if you comment, subscribed, introduced yourself down below. I really just want to provide value and help people who are on crochet journeys, whatever the case may be, small business journeys. So definitely comment below if there's any other way I can provide value, if there are any other video topics you want me to cover. So let's get into the final tip. It is really hard to run a business if I don't know what I want from the business. As you guys may or may not know, all of crochet is made by hand. There's no crochet machine that exists out there currently for people to use. And so all of the crochet that I wanted to do for my business had to be done by hand, of course, and by my hand specifically, because this is currently a one-woman show. And that requirement for this business just did not work well with my lifestyle because I am a full-time student. I don't really have the time to be spending all day crocheting or spending hours a day crocheting. Okay, so I just attached my stitch markers to this sleeve. So basically what I need to do is align the middle stitch marker with the point where I just made the seam, so where the front panel and back panel connect, and then the rightmost and leftmost stitch marker on my sleeve will go on either end, and I will just match stitch across. So back to the conversation. This business requirement of having to make everything by hand just does not scale, and it also just did not fit with my desires from this business, which were to make passive income. And since starting the business, I've learned that there are so many other ways to make money crocheting, namely things like patterns, running a blog, etc. And so I became very indecisive about whether I actually wanted to be selling finished products to people. And on one hand, I do want passive income, but on the other hand, I've never written a pattern before. And so I am kind of scared to write my first pattern. And that fear has prevented me from actually branching out into writing said pattern, which is why I continue to sell finished products. And I think it got to the point where a small part of me was okay with the fact that I was not getting a lot of sales, because, you know, God forbid I get like 100 orders or just like a lot of sales period. That would mean that I'd actually have to commit more time to crocheting, and I was not doing that previously. Why this yarn? What is this? Anyways, yeah, so like a small part of me was like secretly glad that people weren't buying from me. I just could not scale to handle a lot of orders. So if I ever got a lot of orders, that would be a good problem to have, but it would be a problem. And I thought about, you know, hiring other people to crochet for me, which could be a way of making this income more passive, but I don't exactly have money to pay people. So those were all of the different lessons that I've learned. I will now just proceed to finish sewing all these different panels together and show you guys the final cardigan, which I am super excited about. Please, like I said, feel free, you know, finish up your snack, grab another one, grab any works in progress that you have, and chill. I'm doing this the wrong way. I need to catch myself. I keep sewing with the inside of the panels facing me, but with the mattress stitch, you're supposed to sew with the outside of the panels facing you. Okay, so I have like 2 more ends to weave in, and then I will finally be done with this cardigan. I have the bottom ribbing sewn on, and here is the middle ribbing sewn on. So I'll just weave in my 2 ends. I am so happy that the like little amount of scrap yarn that I had left was enough to get me through all of this sewing. And I'm just super excited to have a completed cardigan. I considered wearing this out in public, and I don't know. I think it'd be really cool, because when people ask about it, I can say I made it. Okay, I'll weave in these ends, and then I'll show you guys what the cardigan actually looks like on. Hey y'all, so I just finished the cardigan. This is she, and I am in love, I've gotta say, especially with like the colors and like the ribbing. I'm fully in love. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful? This is my own handiwork. I am so happy with how this turned out. Like everything, I'm obsessed with the ribbing, and it's just... Hey everyone, so I'm editing this video right now, as you can see, and I realized that I never filmed an outro. So here it is. Thank you so much if you got all the way through the video. It was really fun to make a project, to make my cardigan, and to see the final product. And to just talk through what I've been thinking about in terms of my crochet business. Please hit the like button, please subscribe, please introduce yourself down below. I definitely plan to make more of these videos, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Bye!